One of the important features of the University of Tennessee's garden is teaching students. And just outside of the Plant Sciences building, Dr. Andy Pulte has created a garden here just for the purpose of teaching kind of first-year students, really,
That's right.
but everybody, their first new plants
That's
as
right.
they enter the program here. So tell us about the garden you've got here and some of the plants that are featured.
Yeah, you know, Troy, honestly, these plants are some of the first plants that new people learn as they get into gardening.
Right.
And it doesn't matter if, you know, you're 45, you're 50 years old, you're just getting into gardening, or you're a student who thinks you're interested in plants,
Sure.
and you want to learn new plants. And so this garden was designed in a way with simplicity in mind. This whole design is based off of one of my favorite garden designers in the UK. His name's Adrian Bloom. I got interested in him because he's a conifer guy. I'm a conifer guy.
Right.
He writes perennial books. I love herbaceous perennials. And so this design is an homage to Adrian Bloom.
Okay.
And his big gardening principle is, he said, if you are wanting to get interested in plants, it's your first time gardening, he says pick 10 to 12 plants and get to know those 10 to 12 plants. Everything
about them, yeah.
Everything.
Learn them intimately.
That's right. But the bones of this garden, there's other really kind of cool, interesting plants in here, but the bones of this garden are very common plants.
Right, like geranium roseanne, this big river that's running through.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So we've got a 100-foot long river of geranium roseanne, but we've kind of created this river with some other plant material on either side.
Right.
And so for the most part, this geranium gets afternoon shade in a lot of cases. And as we move to the shady side of the building, it actually thrives a little bit more than it does here.
And then you've also got Perovskia.
Yeah, that's
Russian
right. Now
sage.
it's salvia.
Oh, right.
And
Yes.
so, you know, we're always trying to keep up with things. This one is Pica Blue. It's not available on the market anymore. But I mean, just regular. We know that Perovskia, or this salvia, is great for winter interest. And so when we design this garden as well, we're thinking about when are the students here, right?
Sure.
And so we want this to look good, not just in the height of summer, but when I'm teaching plant ID class.
Exactly, which is in the fall or the spring,
Exactly.
and not
exactly.
July.
And
Yeah.
so, I mean, as we look around this garden, you're going to see that, man, maybe some of these things aren't as far along as they are in other gardens. We do early cutbacks.
Right.
You know, we take the heads off of things. Some of the salvias you're going to see, we're cutting them back.
Right,
and
so that
way,
they flower later, and then when the students need them in September, they're
That's
here.
right, 100%.
Yeah. So also this Vermillionaire Kufia, I know that's a Jason Reeves' favorite
That's
plant.
right.
You know, he's always talking about Vermillionaire Kufia. Is
So-
this hardy for you here?
100% hardy for us. We had a little problem this past year
Yeah.
in a certain spots, but here we're a little bit warmer here. This was probably 5 plants you can see later in the season, but it's alive.
Yeah.
It's alive. And
So we might call this a tender perennial.
yeah.
So-
Temperennial.
yeah.
Temperennial. It's very interesting. A lot of these Kufias, they need our native bees to pollinate them to produce seed. And a lot of the honey, the other bees that you see in there, they're actually nectar robbing. And so
Okay.
if you really pay attention to the base of those kind of filiform flowers, you'll see that they've got little holes in them where bees are actually in there nectar robbing the end of them.
So they drill a hole and they take the
That's
nectar
right.
out, but they don't actually pollinate
That's
the flower.
right. That's exactly
Interesting.
right.
So one of my favorite grasses, Miscanthus morning light.
Right. So bad guy, right? Miscanthus is a bad guy in a lot of
Well,
people's
yeah,
mind.
Yeah.
And you know, certainly as you move Troy now in Knoxville all the way into western North Carolina, you're going to see escaped miscanthus on the side of the
Right.
road. But I mean, this is, when I'm teaching this grass in my class, it's a call to understand not just the plant, but the cultivars, right?
Sure.
This is Miscanthus morning light. You just said, hey, this is a great grass. This one,
Yeah.
I've never seen a seedling of Miscanthus morning
Ever.
light.
In 40 years of gardening, I've never seen a seedling off of this particular cultivar.
Right.
In any garden that I've ever had it in.
And Troy, we use this grass too to tell people that, hey, you know what, the scientific names of plants tell you about a plant.
Right.
This is Miscanthus sinensis, right? It tells you that it's from Asia in its scientific name.
Right.
And so scientific names mean things, and we can learn about the plants just from their scientific names.
Sure. Another old-time favorite are the sedums.
That's right.
And, you know, years ago we grew Autumn Joy, but now there are all these improved cultivars
Right.
that stand up and don't flop and, you know, don't lay open by the middle of the summer, and are really just all around nicer plants than some of the old ones that were on the market.
Troy, as you know, we would call this kind of like a stone crop sedum.
Right.
It's in the what they call the Herbstfreude group, which is German for autumn joy, right? And so there's all of these plants that people just might casually refer to as autumn joy.
Yeah.
Right. Indian chief. There's autumn fire,
right.
all these different ones, and they've influxed in and out of the plant market for probably 50 or 60, 80 years.
Right.
But we love this group of old-fashioned sedums. They grew great where we grew up in the Great Plains.
Right.
They grow great in Tennessee.
Yeah.
They're reliable. We give them a haircut, a hard chop. The Chelsea chop, we give them in early season in May.
Right.
Really anytime before the 4th of July, I say. And the students are here in the fall, and for us in Tennessee, they really become autumn joy sedums.
And the Chelsea chop is a British term for people who aren't familiar with it. The Chelsea chop is a British term, and it refers to Chelsea and the flower show and kind of forcing of plants to bloom at a certain time of year. And in our case, it's when sometimes we can cut perennials back hard early in the season to get them to bloom shorter or later, or a combination of the two, so that you can manage their size and their bloom time just a little bit more. And it's the same kind of thing we would do maybe with asters when we tell people,
100%.
you know, keep your asters cut to keep them compact until late in the season, you know, July or so, and then let them bloom in the fall. Mums we used to do the same thing with, you know.
And if you have any of, you know, we always say this, if you have any of our great native roadside plants in your garden, Eutrochrium, the pie weed, any of the iron weeds, the Veronias, this is anytime before the 4th of July, I always say, give them a haircut. They're going to be shorter. They're not going to lodge in the gardens. When I started thinking about this garden and thinking about what are these common plants that people would recognize?
Sure.
Man, well, you can't not go to echinacea, purple coneflower. You and I were trying to come up in our heads like how many native species do we have in Tennessee or the Southeast? But there's several, right? And so Troy, we were talking about this, like how did all of this happen?
Sure.
How did we move from a plant in the wild, there's purple ones, and when we were kids there was a white one.
Right.
There was a white one.
That was a big breakthrough.
That was a breakthrough. And now we've got reds and oranges, and we're just...
And how do we get there?
And so, Troy, in my hand, what's this one? The quiz.
Echinacea paradoxa.
That's right, very good. And so this is the key to it all, right? Is this yellow color, this is one of our native ones. You educated me. This is Ozark native, right? And
the only yellow flowered echinacea. All the rest of the yellow flowers are either retibidas or rudbeckias or, you know, lots of other yellow daisies, but the only yellow echinacea.
Yeah, that's right. So we got this yellow one, and so this is the key that unlocked all these really cool hot colors in echinacea. We've got great coneflowers native to kind of the central cedar glades of Tennessee, like this one, Echinacea tennesseeensis. You know, kind of sparse populations of this one, Echinacea paradoxa. Pallida, I'm sorry, thank you, Troy. You're my plant ID teacher. And then we all know Echinacea purpurea.
The original.
Yeah, kind of the
purple coneflower.
The purple coneflower, the one that we talk about a lot. And so, if you're going to think about full sun, I want to add a perennial, a herbaceous perennial to my garden. It's going to bloom its head off.
Easy to grow.
Easy to grow.
Good for the pollinators.
And so, you know, Troy, this patch that we're standing on, which is a little patch, but it started out as a seed mix called Cheyenne Spirit. And, you know, fast forward, whenever you want to grow echinacea, if you can plant, this is a big breakthrough in echinacea. If you plant a seed of echinacea typically in January, let's say in your house or whatever, to get that plant to bloom that season, that's another breakthrough, right? And so this mixed Cheyenne Spirit that we used, it's possible.
Yeah, hybrids occur in nature.
That's right.
You know, and a lot of the hybrids that we have in our gardens were inspired by things that breeders found where these natural populations overlap each other in the wild. So hybrids are not just man-made laboratory creations, if you will, by us. It happens. The bees make them, the birds make them, you know, all of the pollinators make them, where these natural populations overlap in their native habitat.
Yeah, things are always changing. You know, conditions change, shade conditions change, and so these populations They migrate.
Nature is a fluid thing.
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
Salvias are really popular garden plants also, and part of it is because they just, so many of them have such a good long bloom season. But I think this group, the black and blue group, which there are several of now out there on the market, is a great example of a plant that 20 years ago, when we first started growing this, was basically an annual.
Right.
In a garden setting, this is a plant that is now firmly perennial,
right,
and in some cases, maybe a little bit of a problem.
Right, part of this could be too, we had a stretch of mild winters.
Right.
And this was alive during those stretch of mild winters. Right. It didn't get hit hard in the wintertime.
Now it's gotten deeply rooted,
strong
which
as ever.
Makes it hardier.
Strong as ever. We've been pretty solid with this black and blue salvia garnitica, a great plant, but there's a whole new line of breedings. We talked about Amistad is one of them.
Yeah, Black and Bloom is another one that you find out there now, and they're just a great group of plants. They flower like annuals all summer long, but they come back, so great group of plants to have.
Hummingbirds, we're looking at bees as we kind of walk around the garden. We notice the bees that are on this. These black calyxes that are on this cultivar black and blue is really the showstopper.
And behind us here is this beautiful specimen of one of the variegated redbuds, and this one happens to be variegated and weeping, but you've staked it up so that it's more of a waterfall.
Yeah, I'm trying to, this whitewater redbud, I've kind of haphazardly staked it up. A lot of these weeping redbuds, if it's this variegated one or not, they will be as tall as you stake them up to. They don't have a strong central leader, so if you wanted it 10 foot tall, you can stake it up to that as long as you've got the ladder and the willpower to do it.
Yeah, you take a small, pliable branch and stake it up high in the spring.
We continue to love our native redbuds and all of the cultivars, the fanciful cultivars that have come out with different color foliage that can add so much to a garden. Right.
Another really colorful plant we've got in here is a very common plant, and some people would just cringe and go, oh no, monkey grass, but liriope, and this is a variety called PD Gold Ingot, and it's got bright golden foliage.
Yeah, chartreusey gold foliage. And what's there to complain about liriope? It does exactly what it's supposed to do, right? It can be a turf grass substitute. In here, we've made a kind of a winding gold river along a path. The stepstones don't get engulfed by it.
Right.
And it's a highlight in a shady situation too.
Sure.
So why not add, PD ingot, this gold monkey
Plus it
grass.
gives you winter color. It's evergreen, so you've got it there in the wintertime also. And then one other favorite that's in this garden that I noticed a little ways further down is Heuchera villosa, which is one of our native species of Heuchera. And coral bells is another plant, especially for shade gardeners, that kind of started coming on the market 25 years ago. Dan Himes at Terra Nova Nurseries and started a lot of that breeding, and now we've got a lot of different cultivars that involve our native species.
Yeah, we got a lot of native Heuchera throughout the whole state of Tennessee.
Right.
I don't think any of them are tougher than Heuchera villosa, our native one. And when you see that plant is covered in fuzz, it's covered in hair.
Right.
It's got all that surface area. It reduces transpiration. It's a tough plant. And so, if you're in the store and you're looking for a Heuchera, if you see a little bit of fuzziness to it, it might be a clue that it's got our native Heuchera villosa in it, and it's going to be a tough plant for the home garden.
Right. Andy, I want to thank you for spending some time with us here in your teaching garden.
Anyone's welcome, of course, at the State Botanical Garden in Tennessee. We've got sites throughout Tennessee.
Right.
Crossville, Jackson, here in Knoxville. Here in Knoxville, we're open sunrise to sunset every day of the year. So come on over, it's free to visit, and we'd love to see you.
Thank you. If you liked this video, we've got a wide range of gardening related topics here on our channel. Home garden tours, plant showcases, tips from growers, and much more. Take a dive into our archive and be sure to click to subscribe so you can catch all of our new topics. Until next time.